Well, hello, Adam Gower here, and welcome to this week's podcast. And before I introduce you to my guest this week, I do want to draw your attention to the brand new real estate crowdfunding news channel that we have built at gowercrowd.com. Just go to gowercrowd.com and hit the news button on the top menu. And what you're going to find there is by far the most comprehensive source for all things real estate crowdfunding. We've got updates from around the web, all the articles that we can find around the web. We have a constant flow of our own original coverage of the industry. There's every single deal that is listed with the SEC. So that's basically every real estate syndication in America. That's updated every week. We've got all of the ads for all of the sponsors who are promoting their deals online. That's an incredible resource. We have guru reviews and ads from all the real estate gurus that we can find online. In short, it is the most comprehensive source for all news about real estate investing, real estate crowdfunding, and real estate education that you will find everywhere. Consolidates everything that there is. So go there to gowercrowd.com, hit the news button on the top menu, and take a look and see what there is. It's really cool. Be sure to leave comments. I'd love to hear your opinions about what we have on the site and any of the articles or other coverage that you'll find there. Now, when my guest today, Rod Khleif, asked to be on the show, I did some research on him and I had a whole introduction lined up and ready to go. But what I discovered in talking to this very, very interesting gentleman was that he is an exceptionally good introducer of himself and describer of his own background and story. So I'm going to let him do that in this episode without cluttering it with my own researched introduction. He's far better at it than I am. So without further ado, here he is, the man himself, Rod Khleif.
Rod Khleif. There is something that I hear all the time, and that is people come to me and they say, I see you everywhere. That's what they say to me. You are, without doubt, the only person in my world who I see truly everywhere all the time. I'm dying to know how you do that, but let's just start from the beginning. I actually really would like to know. And how many hundreds of millions of downloads of this and that and the other and top podcasts? I'd love to know more about them, but let's start at the very top. I really want to know. I see your face. I know you. I feel like I know you. But tell me, and that one other guy in the audience of mine that doesn't know who you are, who are you? Right? What's your background?
I love your energy, my friend. So listen, if you don't know who I am, let me give you a little backstory, just very quickly. So I immigrated to this country when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert, my mother's Vanja, from the Netherlands. Think wooden shoes and windmills. And we ended up in Denver, Colorado. We really struggled when I was growing up. In fact, I remember we ate expired food because it was cheaper. You could actually they had an expired food store. We drank powdered milk with our cereal in the morning, which was terrible, but that's what we had. It was cheaper. And I remember wearing clothes, hand-me-down clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school. But I knew I wanted more. And so luckily my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. And she was a bit of an entrepreneur. So she, with her babysitting money, invested in the stock market, she did IPOs, and she invested in real estate. Well, when I was 14, she bought the house across the street from us for about $30,000. When I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep. And I said, what? Forget college, Mom. I'm getting into real estate. So I went and got my real estate license, broker's license, actually, which you could do back then with education. Now they got smart. You need some experience. But I was a broker right when I turned 18. And so my first year in real estate, I maybe made about $8,000. My second year, maybe $10,000. But my third year, which was 1980, I made $100,000, which, as you know, back then was pretty decent money for a punk kid like myself. So what happened between year 2 and year 3? And what happened was I met someone that taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology and how truly 80 to 90% of a person's success in anything is just that, mindset and psychology. If there's only knowledge, there'd be a bunch of wealthy librarians and college professors out there. It's the do, it's the taking action with what you know. And so fast forward to today, I've owned 2,000 plus houses that I rented long-term in 3 states. I've owned thousands of apartment units. I've actually built 27 businesses. I don't call them failures when they fail. I call them seminars. Several have been worth tens of millions of dollars. Most were spectacular, flaming seminars. But anyway, in 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And you're thinking, ooh, well, so did I. I thought I was a freaking real estate god, and my head got so big I could barely fit it through the door. And you know, when that happens, God of the universe might give you a little smack. Well, that was 2008. I lost everything. I lost $50 million conservatively in 2008 and 9. And so, you know, what I'm known for really is talking about, you know, the mindset associated with having 50 million to lose in the first place, and then the mindset it took to recover from that. People threw themselves off buildings and killed themselves for less, you know, in the Great Depression and even this recent contraction. But, you know, that's my story. And yeah, I love social, you know, my team, I've got an incredible team with social media. My podcast, Lifetime CashFlow, has been downloaded 11.5 million times. I'm really proud of that. It's funny. You want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. I never planned to do anything about it. Around now. I do coaching and teaching and live events and sold out live events. You know, now finally back to live events again. But, you know, early on in my podcast, if you listen to early episodes, you hear me say, I'll never sell you anything. I just want to add value, which is truly what I want. I just want to tell my story about what happened in 08 and 9 and why it happened. And now I'm a liar because, like I say, I have coaching and courses and everything else. But anyway, that's a very abbreviated version of my story, Adam.
Fantastic. And I really appreciate that synopsis. I wish I could be as quick and as effective when people ask me the same question. All right. So how did you start? So you lost, I know you lost an enormous amount of money during the last downturn. That must have been incredibly difficult to deal with at the time.
Yes.
And I don't want to put words into your mouth, but it sounds like what happened afterwards, there was your own mindset shift, that you reinvented yourself afterwards, because presumably, and I don't know, I've just had a look online over here, quick glance at your LinkedIn. You weren't a digital marketing master pre-2008. So something shifted during that time that got you back into real estate despite the pain, but also took you down the path of digital marketing. It's the only term that I can
let me expand on what you just said, because that's very interesting. And I will tell you, you know, I didn't go, I was out of real estate in 2008 and 9. I formed a company, a litigation support company that helped families save their homes. And I built law firms in 5 states. We helped thousands of families save their homes, but I hated the business. It was nobody's happy when they're losing their house. And you know, and so luckily I was able to sell that a couple of years ago, but that's what I built out of the ashes of losing everything, was that litigation support company. It ultimately had 60 employees. It was about a $10 million company. But you talk about digital marketing, and I'm going to tell you, you know, again, I was telling you, like I say, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. I never planned to start my podcast, and my friend talked me into it. And I said, you know what, I'll add value. I'll focus on adding value. That's all I want to do. And so I would take free phone calls from listeners. I'd say, you know, let's talk about anything you want for 30 minutes. I have nothing to sell. I just want to help you. And I took hundreds of those. And, you know, I really believe that the most successful people on the planet are the ones that add the most value. And I live by that adage. I mean, I literally, since I've been doing this, these are the books I've written. You can see there's about 1 foot, 12 inches of books here that have been written, you know, and I'm always continually adding more value. And you ask why this social media has been such a success. People see that when you're not trying to sell, you're educating, and you come at it from that place. They see that, they appreciate it, and they follow you. And, you know, like I said, the podcast has been a huge success. My live events have all sold out. You know, I'll mention the one I've got coming up in December, you know, at the end, but I've got one coming up, thank God, because I've had to go virtual, and now we're going to have a live event again after 2 years. I'm so excited because I've done virtual events, but, you know, it's like my poker face photographer looking at me. There's no energy in me talking for 2 full days. My live events are 3 days, but it's like, at least I'll have that energy again, that love, and that from the crowd. On, right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It just gives you energy. And so, because it's just me at the live events just for 3 days. But anyway, so what
made you decide to do a podcast? What was that? Because
it was
you're an old fella. You're older than I am.
Yeah, two things.
That was a
It
big
was two
jump.
things. One was I wanted to share my story. My story is, if you're going to buy and hold real estate, for God's sakes, don't do single family. It was my single family that pulled me down, and we can drill down on that if you want. But do multifamily. If you're going to do, residential real estate, for God's sakes, do multifamily. So that was the big message I wanted to get out there. And then I knew at some point I was going to start doing commercial real estate again, because I had apartment complexes in the past. And I hate asking for money. And I thought, what a great vehicle to be able to, tell people, hey, I've got a deal if you're interested. And then, like I say, I used to say, I'll never sell you anything when I first started. Now, again, like I'm a liar, but I got to 1 million downloads. I'm like, all right, knucklehead, you probably ought to do something with this. And so I wrote a book. I wrote this book. I gave it away for free, 20,000 copies for free. And then finally my team's like, hey, knucklehead, again, let's get it on Amazon. And I still give it away for free if somebody pays shipping, but it's been a bestseller in like 3 or 4 categories. But anyway, and then I did a course and the coaching, and it just evolved into this. Now I've got 1,000 students around the country. I'm so proud of this. I've been teaching less than 4 years, and my students now own over 46,000 units. And that I know of. It's probably, we just had, every day we get people saying, I just closed on this 300 unit, this 200 unit. It's just so exciting. So anyway.
And how did you figure, what was the evolution to mindset from real estate? Which came first, mindset or real estate?
Great question. Yeah, great question. Well, the reason that my podcast has been so successful is, I met that guy, like I mentioned, that taught me about mindset literally 40 years ago. And so it's always been something that I've been very interested in the power of that and self-actualization and all that. And then about 21 years ago, I met Tony Robbins, was blown away by his technology, followed him around the planet for literally 20 years, was on his team for a bit. And just, if you have an opportunity to see him, just do it. Trust me, you'll be glad you did. He's the best in the world at mindset and psychology. And so, it just fascinates me that, look, I didn't go to college, or I probably would have loved psychology in college. And so this was kind of like, my college has been boot camps and masterminds and events. And I've got this picture, I could even share my screen, show it to you. I've got this picture where my arms are out, and I've got about 100 lanyards around my neck and 100 on each arm from events that I've gone to. That's my college. And then I'm very well read. I've got a library with thousands of books in it in another building here at my compound. And so, but
mindset. I was asking, how did you gravitate to mindset in your podcast? You started talking.
Oh, yes. So that's right. The reason it's been so successful, sorry, I go on these tangents. The reason it's been so successful is I do a clip every week called Own Your Power. Okay. And it's really, that's what it's about. It's about owning your power. There's music. They're very motivational. They're about 5 minutes. There's hundreds of them on there. So every week I'll do an interview with an expert in the business. I've had people with 100,000 units, 20,000, 5,000, 6,000, best in the country in multifamily ownership, other than like maybe a Sam Zell or somebody huge like that. But then they alternate every week. I'll do that interview portion, and then I'll also do that Own Your Power clip. And like this week was about aiming higher. And that I'm sorry, Monday, today. It's going out today. Last week was about self-actualization.
How long are those?
5 minutes. 5 minutes. So even if you're not interested in multifamily real estate, I hope you'll check it out. It's Lifetime Cash Flow. I'll juice you once a week. I promise you.
Give me a quick Own Your Power example. Come on, tell me something. Like, teach me something about owning my power. I want to learn something from you right now. All
right. Well, I'll tell you what. So let's talk about right now, aiming higher. So let's talk about that one right now. Sure. And, there's a quote maybe you've heard where you aim for the moon, you miss, you'll still be among the stars. I love that quote because it's so absolutely true. When you dream big and aim higher, you achieve much greater things than when you aim low. So one of the things I mentioned in this week's clip is, if you want to, look at your dreams that you want 10 years from now. Maybe you want a house. Where do you want that house? On the beach, in a forest, in Europe, wherever. And just close your eyes, visualize that. Visualize, financial independence, a yacht, 50-foot yacht, cars, whatever. Get that image and then 10x it. make it bigger, from big house to mansion, from 50-foot yacht to 250-foot yacht, from fast car to a dozen cars in your garage. Your dreams are meant to be huge. And that's how you grow. That's how they landed a rocket on the moon. That's how, Jim Carrey wrote himself a check for $10 million when he was flat broke and he carried around his wallet. And that's how much money he made for Dumb and Dumber. That's how FedEx was born. Fred Smith had a crazy idea and it went crazy. Elon Musk, I'm going to build a self-driving car. He's the wealthiest guy on the planet next to Bezos. Madonna said she had a goal since she was a girl. I want to rule the world. Okay. These weren't just big ideas. They were more than that. They were targets that were set very high. And each of these examples, the target was set so high that it became their guiding beacon, like their North Star. And they didn't negotiate with themselves to make it lower. So, most super successful people have a guiding light like that. And so, it's a lot of people play it safe.
And so, is that guiding light always about money, or can it be?
No.
Other examples.
A lot
related, like a bigger car or a mansion, whatever.
Yeah, well, it could be health. It could be a relationship. It could be, making sure you have a world-class relationship. It could be continual self-actualization, self-growth. I don't know about you. I'm sure, knowing what little I know about you, Adam, this applies to you. But every year I want to look in the mirror, be a better husband, a better father, a better business person, a better human being. So it's that, it can be any of that. And so, no, it doesn't have to be just money. Of course, a lot of the people that come into my ecosystem want financial freedom. They're in the rat race or whatever it is. And so, so I typically include money in that conversation, but certainly one of the things I teach at my live events is, my greatest regret in life. For example, I'll tell you my greatest regret in life. It was coming home to my kids. I lived in an $8 million, 10,000 square foot mansion on the beach. And spectacular home. And I'd come home to them and I would play with them, but I wasn't there mentally. I was distracted. It's my greatest regret to this day. My kids will tell you that I was a great dad, but I didn't live up to my own expectations. So that's one of the things, I teach to my students, is to have that balance and to prioritize and make what's most important, truly most important. And so, I take a very holistic approach in my teaching and my trainings. And my live event, for example, the first hour and a half is goal setting on steroids. Okay. It's, how do you get anything if you don't know what it is? Like Napoleon Hill says in his book, Think and Grow Rich, you have to have a burning desire. So that's how you get that burning desire. So we do goals. Then we do an identity statement, because once you determine what your identity is that you're aspiring to be, it will pull you into it. So that's another thing we do. We work on fear. We talk about the importance of gratitude. We have balance, planning, focus, peer group, all these things that relate to success in everything, not just financial, even peer group. You show me your 3 best friends, I'll show you how your relationship is, because it's going to be like theirs. I'll show you how happy you are, because it's going to be like them, certainly financial as well. So all those components come into play in life and in business.
How important was this? Somebody said to me recently that doing live events is the most important thing that you can do to be successful as a personality. To what extent have you found that to be true?
I don't think that's, I think the live events really are for my followers and people that want to learn this business. It's really more of a networking opportunity. Certainly it's a fun opportunity to grow and learn. My events, people cry, they laugh. We do some really cool stuff. It's not like your typical real estate event. Certainly it's 3 full days. It's not a sales pitch. I spend about 30 minutes on telling you about my coaching. If you want to do my coaching, great. If not, that's great too. But the rest of it's all content. And it's like and sometimes it's like a rock concert. It's that kind of level of excitement, and people rave about it. I would tell you, I've had thousands of people attend, and the only complaint I've ever gotten is the room too cold or the food's terrible or whatever. It's never about the content. Okay. And so, and I'm really proud of that. But again,
what made you shift to live? Like you had a podcast.
Shift to live. Well, what happened was, it's kind of funny. It's a funny story. I said, I used to be introverted and now I'm spoke. Yeah.
I don't believe that.
Well, I know that. See, what happened when I immigrated, I didn't speak English. And so I got thrown into school, And I found out what bullies were for the first time. So, I'd get my butt kicked on a regular basis. And then my mom, God bless her, proud Dutch woman that she is, thought it'd be a great idea to send me to school for show and tell on wooden shoes and those lederhosen that the Germans wear for Oktoberfest. I got my butt kicked again. Then they chased me home. She chased them off with a fly swatter. Next day, butt kicked again. So, that coupled with all the stuff that everybody goes through. I got embarrassed on the playground by this girl I had a crush on in front of her friends. All these lifehood experiences made me think that I wasn't good enough. In fact, I had a question that I used to ask myself, which was, how can I show them I'm good enough? And that question had a double-edged sword. And of course, it caused me to push really hard to be successful, but it also cost me my first family. So, many people. That
must have been even harder than losing 50 million.
Oh, worst day of my life. Worst day of my life. Telling my kids we were getting a divorce. Worst day of my life. Dear. Now, I would not have met the incredibly beautiful, supermodel, beautiful wife that I've been with for 12 years, who's more beautiful on the inside than the outside. So, it's okay. But that was the worst day of my life. In fact, I talk about that at my events. One of the first things I talk about is that, and how important that. So you're here to learn real estate, and I talk about that. You're here to learn real estate, but I'm going to make sure that you don't miss anything else. Okay, and so that's part of our conversation.
Right. So let me jump in with another question. So you're really interesting to talk to, and all of the questions that I usually ask completely gone out the window. Let me ask you this. So let's jump back to real estate real quick. You lost 50 million. That is very, very painful. I'm glad to say that I didn't, but I did see people losing money, and I lost a lot of money in the savings and loan crisis.
Oh, did you back in the SNL? Oh, wow.
Yeah, okay. I lost everything, but it's a whole different story. The show is about you today.
I went through that too, so I know all about that too.
What are you going to do now? You've got this big portfolio of this very successful.
No, it's not a failure. It's a seminar. It's not a failure. It's only a failure if you don't get back up. It's only a failure. You don't get back up, or you don't get the lesson.
Absolutely right. It's like Edison says, no such thing as failure. They were all steps to success. Right, when he kept, with his light bulbs.
Yeah.
What are you going to do now? What did you learn?
Yeah, great question.
Last downturn, you lost 50 million, that is going to help you avoid ending up in the same place when the market turns, as you and I know it's going to do eventually.
Of course it will. Of course it will. So, by the way, just go back to failure for 1 second. I got to meet the billionaire owner of Spanx, Sarah Blakely. She started with $5,000, and I think she just sold to a private equity company for $1 billion, the company. But I met her at a mastermind, and she told me her dad used to ask her and her brother once a week, what have you failed at this week? And was irritated with them if they hadn't failed at something. Isn't that an awesome question?
That's really good question.
Yeah, I love that. Anyway.
That's what I'm going to do. Every night I get home and I say to my kids, how was your day?
What have you failed at?
The best parts of your day? What did you fail at? What a great question.
I know. I love that one. I wish I'd have gotten it when my kids were more impressionable.
Let's just stop there. That's the winner for this right now.
Right. Well, so listen, what am I doing to get ready? What am I doing to get ready? I'm going to tell you, in a crisis, cash is king. Okay. So I'm getting in a lot of cash right now. I am, and I'm getting in more. Also, it's not just your own cash. Your ability to raise equity is also critical. So I'm pre-framing my investors to say, hey, it's, we're going to have a pullback. I think it's inevitable. Real estate goes through cycles. I've been through some big ones like the SNL thing, the 08 thing. And so, it's inevitable. Real estate goes through seasons, just like life. And right now we've been in summer for a long time. I'm convinced we're in fall, and what comes after fall, right? So that said, not something to fear, something to get excited about, frankly, because with crisis comes opportunity, and there will be incredible exponential opportunities. You listen to my podcast and you start to hear a pattern. If you listen to the people that have thousands of units, many of them started in 9, 10, 11, and 12. So we call a clue, right? So again, nothing to fear.
You call it a clue?
A clue. Yeah, it's a clue. If they started in 9, 10, 11, and 12, that's a clue. Right?
Clue
because
what? Just clarify.
A clue, because the market crashed in 08 and 9. So they bought after the crash. So they were able to capitalize on depressed values. That's why I think it's a clue.
I see.
But yeah.
I thought you were saying something else, just to be really clear.
All right.
I thought you were actually saying the clue is that they have not experienced
that too.
Downturn,
that too.
And therefore, excuse me for saying this, really straightforward, are therefore clueless.
Yes, that is a real problem right now. I'm going to tell you, because there are a lot of people giving money to people that have never gone through a crash. Me, I am super conservative. We've got by default, because of what happened to me, obviously.
Yeah.
I never checked demographics before. My 800 houses that pulled me down, most of those properties had contractors in them, plumbers, electricians, drywallers, painters, roofers, which fell off a cliff in 09. Nobody had work, coupled with several other things. But now I literally, every resident, I will look at where they work. Like, we just closed on a 296 unit asset in San Antonio, and every resident, I looked at where they work to measure recession resistance, to see what I felt about how comfortable I felt with those employment lines and industries. And so,
what is the most important thing to look at? If somebody is sitting there today who started in 2012, they've not been through it, they've got a nice portfolio, what is the one thing that they should pay attention to right now?
It's all about cash flow, Adam. I mean, listen, in 08 and 9, I believe the average contraction in income was about 11%. So can you survive that? Like the San Antonio asset, the day we closed, it could break even at 58% occupied the day we closed. And it was 96% occupied, but that's the break even point we had. That is super conservative, right? And so, I've got, 6 to 8 months of operating reserves in the bank, just in case. They're not touching that money.
So how do you deal with that in a world, right, really candidly, and we did talk about this, could talk about shooting for the stars. It was one of the first things that you talked about.
It was my Own Your Power clip this week.
Hold on one second. One of the big problems is that's a very important mindset. It is important. But if you're an investor and you see somebody who is telling you that they're going to hit 25% IRRs and crazy return, and you think that shooting for the stars is the way not to fall too short, you could end up with a problem, right? So if you're doing 58%, whatever you've got, that means that you are not really squeezing every penny that you probably could out of those deals.
Not at all.
How do you advise investors?
Yeah, I actually have a free resource of the questions you should ask a GP before you get in a deal. If your peeps want it, they can text GP questions to 72345. GP questions is one word to 72345. It's about 50 questions you should ask a GP. Did you go through the contraction? How are you set up for your reserves? Who's managing this asset? Who's boots on the ground? Just you name. I mean, I've got it right here. Actually, I could go through some of them, but it's like I told you before we started recording. If you're interested in questions to ask a general partner before getting into syndication, okay? If you're and things like how will you communicate problems? How's the accounting handled? What CPA firm are you using? Do you own other assets in this market? Who's going to do the actual work on your CapEx, so on and so forth, you name it. But I was going somewhere with that. Darn it.
Yes, we were talking about the inevitability of a downturn.
Well, yeah, okay.
You and I could talk for hours and hours and hours. I know. If I just let you take off on these tangents, it's really interesting to everything that you say.
Let me ask you.
No, not at all. No. I also know that you're slightly distracted today.
Yeah.
But let me ask you some. Let me ask you some of the big questions that I like to ask all of my guests, if you don't mind, as we kind of move towards the end of the podcast, and then you can tell me all about your boot camp, because I'm dying to hear about that. I know it's coming up in December. We'll definitely get this out in time for that. Don't worry. What are your personal? These are 3 questions I always ask my guests.
Love it.
And I'm going to actually throw another one in for you, especially. What are the key daily habits? Come on, Rod. What are the key daily habits that you personally have that make you successful?
No, that's a great question. I believe in the Pareto principle. So one of the things I teach my students is a planning process where you identify all the major areas of your life that you need to pay attention to, the people in your life, your core business, like 8 to 10 high-level pieces of your core business, 8 to 10 high-level pieces of maybe a side business you're doing, like multifamily in many cases. You come up with a list of those things that you look at once a week to make sure nothing gets missed. So that's number one. Number two is then you create your task list for the week, which is what I do. And then I'll look at it and I will prioritize that 20% that'll get me 80% further. It's always there. It's this guy named Pareto hundreds of years ago came up with this. Okay. And so I do that. That's on the business side. You asked, to make sure that I'm a success, but I'm going to tell you something. And this is, some of you analytical ones are going to think, okay, he's off on the foo-foo wagon here, but I will sit on this recliner behind my green screen here. And I will sit there in the morning just for a couple minutes and I'll do gratitude. I'll say thank you for my amazing, beautiful wife, my kids, my students, my foundation, all these things that I'm super grateful for. And then I'll do gratitude for the things that I want as if I already have them. And I know, again, and I've even gotten emotional being grateful for things I don't even have yet. I know I lost a few of you there, but this is how I had 50 million to lose and how I got back to what I have today. Okay. So not ego, but this is how I did. This is one of the big things that I do. So it's just a little, I had Hal Elrod on my show, who wrote a book called The Miracle Morning. And he talked in that, his national bestseller, super cool guy, but he talks about in the morning, you do some prayer or meditation. You do some journaling, which I'm a huge proponent for. That was one of the other things you do on your weekly plan is journaling, some exercise, of course. And I'm forgetting something, meditation, prayer, journaling, exercise. Oh gosh, there's one other thing I'm losing.
There's one thing that I heard that, and you kind of apologize for what is an incredibly interesting answer, the idea of gratitude. It's very fascinating. There was something very similar to that I heard that I'd never really, I'm English, so we're very stiff upper lippish, kind of thing. But now I'm here in California, I'm wearing shorts actually as we speak. But one thing people started talking about was affirmation. And I had to actually look it up.
Oh, wow. I'd love to talk about that. Okay. That's something in fact, okay, I'll show you something on the wall here. You see these I am statements. I am success. Right. I am the best in the world at what I do. I am a business genius. I am health and energy.
That is affirmation, isn't it?
Those are anything you put the words I am in front of is an identity statement. There's no greater force in the human psyche than the need to be consistent with how we identify ourselves. And so I shout those at the top of my lungs when I'm exercising. If there's any area of my life I'm trying to enhance, and it gets into the fiber of your being. It's funny, my kids help me at my boot camps, and that's the question they get the most often. Does he really do that? Does he really yell that stuff? And they're like, oh yeah, we grew up with it. I've got him in my exercise room here.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Second question. Now you thought there was three, but that was the first question. It was just the second of the last three. So you've touched on this before, but what would you say has been the hardest lesson you learned in real estate? What is the hardest lesson?
Yeah. Well, it was to not focus on cash flow. I focused on equity. And again, I had 30 million, a little less than that in equity, of 30 million plus my liquid resources, but it was mostly equity, of course. And so for example, the subtitle of my book, The New Rules of Real Estate Investing, means focus on cash flow. Equity is irrelevant.
Hold that up again. Hold that up.
Okay.
I know you're not going to object.
Yeah. Don't tell me, don't tell me what they paid for it 10 years ago and what you paid for it now. It's, how is it going to cash flow? What are the returns going to be? Have you, been conservative? Too many people are being way too aggressive right now. And these people that have not gone through a crash, I mean, we get into best and final on a deal and I'm scratching my head when I see a regular operator, not a REIT. REITs sometimes have no cost of funds to speak of, but a regular operator take down this asset. I'm like, what are you thinking? Now, maybe they're banking on inflation, which is coming, which is going to help our business, not going to help the economy, but it's going to help our business because rents go up and debt typically, at least for a period of time, will stay the same. But I mean, to me, I don't know, maybe it's not as risky as I think it is, but I don't know.
You're doing the right thing. You're absolutely doing the right thing. Cash flow. So that's your answer to that. Simply stated. Third question, last question. What is the most important thing so you talked about investors and having investors lined up, right, for the next downturn. So
and have them pre-framed. And I'm sorry, I didn't finish my thought on that, which is, I tell them, and sorry about the expression, when there's blood running in the streets, that's when we're going to pounce, so that they're not afraid, because we know the media is going to say, like they did in 08 and 09, it's going to take 10 years before real estate comes back. Multifamily was back to exceeding pre-crash levels in 3 years in rents. So, when everything looks terrible and the media is making it even more terrible, that's when we pounce. It's a contrarian approach, but that's when the exponential money is made. So it's not just my own cash, it's my ability to get cash if these investors are not fearful at that time.
Pre-framing. So what's the most important somebody thinking about investing in real estate today should be thinking about? What's the advice you would give them?
Number one, I would say don't dabble. Okay. If you're going to give your hard-earned money to anybody, learn what it is you're investing in, be it the stock market, be it IPOs, be it in somebody's business. Multifamily, for God's sakes, come spend some time with me. You'll know more than most people. And that way you're not making a mistake. I mean, start with these GP questions, but I would encourage you to learn what it is that you're going to invest in, at least at a high level. Because, again, there are a lot of operators out there that are running fast and loose, and you see these 25% IRRs, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. Okay. And just wait, we'll see how much they really get, if at all. And so, it's so important to have some basic understanding. So when you see a PPM, you can look at it and say, okay, now this is, BS. Okay. We know this is ridiculous. Their vacancy rate hasn't gone up while they're doing their reposition. Their maintenance and repair budget is a joke. Their payroll budget is a joke. And you'll have a really good understanding of what should be there. So again, it's a plug for my boot camp. But even if you don't learn it, we're going to get to that in a second. Even if you don't learn it from me, for God's sakes, go out there and learn it. Whatever it is you're going to invest in.
I want to know all about your boot camp, but I have got one sneaky last question for you.
All right, no worries.
Best books. Come on. What are
So here's one.
Other than your books, what books do you recommend?
Yeah. Great question. So my love language is gifts. There's a book called The 5 Love Languages. In fact, I had the author on my show, beautiful guy. And it was such a treat for me because I've given away a few thousand of his books because everybody feels love a different way. So get The 5 Love Languages if you love anybody. If you don't, then don't. But if you do, okay, because everybody feels it differently. And so that one, and because my love language is gifts, my students get books from me every month. So I'll give you some examples. The Slight Edge, those little decisions you make every day that trajectory your life up or down. Gary Keller's One Thing. I had that his co-author, Jay Papasan, on the show. Awesome book. Turning Pro by Stephen Pressman. When you decide to go do something, own being a professional, not an amateur any longer. Turning Pro. I could keep going, but those are some real good ones.
Those are amazing. Thanks so much. All right, Rod, you've got to tell me. We've got a boot camp. What's it about?
And I'm so excited.
Tell me all about it.
I'm so excited because it's live, and we've already sold hundreds of tickets. I mean, it's going to be a big one, and it's 3 days of learning every aspect of the multifamily business. A lot of fun because we spend time on mindset. People just rave about it. If you go to multifamilybootcamp.com, I'm also throwing in I just finished this course on courage and confidence, which I'm super proud of, to help you build your courage and confidence to actually take action with something. That course gets included for free as soon as you buy your ticket. And I'm going to give your listeners a great deal. In fact, if they use this code, they can come for $197. And it gets 3 full days of training. I talk about my coaching for 30 minutes. That's the only sales pitch. It's not even a sales pitch because I don't ask for the money. You can go talk to my team if you're interested.
You talk about the coaching for 30 minutes on the hour, every hour. No, I'm kidding.
No. One time on Saturday.
I'm just joking. I'm pulling your leg.
Okay, yeah, no.
Go on.
And
so,
it's all
so what's the promo? You were going to give me something.
Yeah, if you text the word multifamily to 72345 and you use the code RODFRIEND, you can come for $197. You get that courage and confidence course, you get the ticket to the event. You also get my Finding Deals course, which is a great way, lots of unusual ways to find deals in this hot market, which I'm really proud of as well. And for $197, it's kind of a no-brainer, honestly. And if you come to me on the 3rd day on Sunday and you tell me you didn't love it, I don't mean like it, I mean love it, I will give you your money back, no problem. Okay. So again, multifamily to 72345. Use the code RODFRIEND to get that deal. That's going to be half price, and on next Friday it'll be less than half price. And then multifamilybootcamp.com if you want to go right to the website.
One last thing. Dates, when is it exactly?
Oh, I'm sorry. December 3rd, 4th, and 5th in Orlando. December 3rd, 4th, and 5th in Orlando. Yeah. So I appreciate you airing this episode early.
Yes, I'll get it out.
No problem. Thank you,
Rod Khleif, you are a dynamo. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Being on my show, I'm exhausted, and I'm usually the one with the energy. It's a real pleasure. I wish you and your family all the very, very best.
Thank you.
Right, so that was Rod Khleif, and what a pleasure it was to have him on the show. Very interesting fellow, very interesting story, and I'm sure you found it as inspirational as I did. Be sure to go to gowercrowd.com and sign up for the newsletter. You'll find a subscribe button on the page if you're not already on the homepage if you're not already a subscriber. And be sure to go to the new news channel that we've just launched by hitting the news button on the top menu and explore what there is in there. There's just about everything that we can think of and that we can find online about real estate crowdfunding. It is the ultimate source for everything real estate investing and real estate crowdfunding, all there at gowercrowd.com. Hey, thanks for joining me today, Rod Khleif. It was a real pleasure to get to know you. And thank you for listening in. That's all for today. Be well, stay safe, and for now, this is Adam Gower signing off.